So before I dive really deep into the nitty-gritty of the Miami Dolphins Tennessee Titans game from last night, I just want to throw out there what my main takeaway was. And that is very simply, Tua Tagovailoa, whether you like it or not, is without a doubt coming back this season. This Miami Dolphins team is putrid. And it's actually allowed me to gain a ton of respect for Tua Tagovailoa and allow me to really gain and give a lot of just hat tips to Tua Tagovailoa. This offense is clearly very much predicated on Tua Tagovailoa's ability to pass the ball. Now listen, Devon Achane's awesome, Tyreek Hill's awesome, Jalen Waddle's awesome, but at the end of the day, you need someone to throw you the football. And so everyone is like, oh, this is Mike McDaniel, he's doing the heavy lifting, or Tua Tagovailoa, he's doing the heavy lifting, or whoever it was. Clearly, it's a combination of everything. This is not the Kyle Shanahan San Francisco 49ers. You can't just plug any quarterback into the system and have it work. For the most part, for the 49ers, C.J. Beathard had success, Nick Mullins had success, Jimmy G made it to a Super Bowl, Brock Purdy made it to a Super Bowl. There's been a revolving door of guys who have at least looked competent in the Kyle Shanahan scheme. Mike McDaniel is clearly a step under Kyle Shanahan. I know for a long time I had trounced him as one of the best young head coaches in the NFL, and that's true. But I didn't necessarily really go after the, wow, Tua Tagovailoa actually means a ton to this offense. I understand statistically it's easy just to look and say, what are you talking about? But this team, without Tua Tagovailoa, who is a capable NFL quarterback, is putrid on offense. They are not even serviceable by any means. And you know what happens when you're not serviceable? Or your pants get pulled down in front of a national audience on Monday Night Football while your offense looks historically bad? People get fired. GMs get fired. Coaches get fired. And no one wants to deal with that aspect on what possibly could come if the season from hell really comes to fruition for the Miami Dolphins. So with that being said, I might not agree with it. I might not do it if I was Tua Tagovailoa. It's obviously his decision, and I will respect whatever decision Tua Tagovailoa has to make about coming back or not. Because it's not my life, it's not my livelihood, it's not my money. I get it at the end of the day. Even if it's something that I wouldn't do. At this point, I do believe the Miami Dolphins, front office, head coach, you name it, is going to rush Tua Tagovailoa back on the field as soon as it feels like it's good enough for him to do so. They're not going to wait the full year. As soon as he's available to come off of IR, and he shows no symptoms of a concussion or whatever, the first glance at it, he will be back in the Miami Dolphins starting lineup. He will be back as the starting quarterback for the Miami Dolphins. That's just what's going to happen. Because although we all want to worry about Tua Tagovailoa's health, myself, whatever, at the end of the day, coaches get fired when their side of the ball is not producing any sort of offense against a Titans team that was winless last night before this game. Losing to Mason Rudolph is inexcusable. Even if you have Tyler Huntley, Mason Rudolph, potato, they're the same guy. And when you have clearly the advantage in the weapons department, you cannot get annihilated like you did. Mike McDaniel is kind of looking like a second-tier head coach right now. He's not. He clearly is just like many head coaches who needs a quarterback, but they're going to rush Tua Tagovailoa back. Because if this season from hell continues from the Miami Dolphins, there is going to be serious implications at the end of the year. Whether it's the head coach potentially losing his job, although I would be strongly against that, or it's the general manager losing his job. This Miami Dolphins team has weapons everywhere. And it's insanity that even last night they couldn't move the ball at all. The offensive line looks bad. And yet with all these weapons, you can't even get him the ball. That's how much Tua Tagovailoa meant. And I think it even kind of sells Tua Tagovailoa as a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, given how bad the Miami Dolphins are without him. Now that we see how bad this offensive line is, now that we see that Mike McDaniel's system isn't exactly quarterback proof, and now that we've seen, even when the other team is starting a second-tier quarterback, they can't win. That's how much Tua Tagovailoa means to this team. And that's why they're 1,000% going to rush him back, whether we agree with it or not, whether we think we saw the end of Tua Tagovailoa in the NFL or not. He is 1,000% coming back. It's not the right decision. I would wait on it. But this is exactly what the Miami Dolphins are going to have to do to help salvage their reputation as an offensive-driven team that cannot even get off the field at times. And here's what I'll say about this. This is a Miami Dolphins issue. This is not a Tua Tagovailoa issue. The Miami Dolphins knew darn good and well how injury-prone and the potential of Tua Tagovailoa being one more concussion away from being potentially out of the NFL. And still they did nothing in the backup quarterback department. Imagine how serviceable this team would be if they had a Tyrod Taylor, if they had their own Colt McCoy when Colt McCoy was a serviceable quarterback, a Ryan Fitzpatrick-esque player to at least make this offense look serviceable. You knew Skylar Thompson wasn't good enough. We all saw it. The Skylar Thompson experience is over. We know Tyler Huntley is in a certain system a serviceable quarterback, but he doesn't fit this scheme. There is so many other issues with the Miami Dolphins, and the clear travesty and idiocracy to not see that this could be a potential result looming in the regular season and not signing a capable backup quarterback, and they're out there, you just got to be willing to pay for it. It's your own fault for giving Tua Tagovailoa as much money as you did. I wouldn't have given him that much, even how he's shown how valuable he is this offense. But you still have to fork over the money for an insurance policy. And this team did not have Tua Tagovailoa insurance. They didn't go after a Tyrod Taylor. They didn't go after a Mason Rudolph who was fine enough and good enough to win last night. And that's a front office issue. This is a clear misstep by the Miami Dolphins front office. The fact that they didn't see this possibility coming makes it inexcusable. Now, if they go get a guy like a Tyrod Taylor, who I've mentioned, like a better backup quarterback, like a Dorian Thompson-Robinson, like a Blaine Gabbert of the world, like a Chase Daniel of the world, and they're still bad, you can at least defend them and say, listen, they did everything they could. But this is a clear miscalculation by the Miami Dolphins front office. And the season from hell is going to continue because there is no answer long-term or short-term until Tua Tagovailoa is back in the fold.